What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the video. I hope you're having a fantastic day. Today I am driving the 2025 Toyota Crown Nightshade, and Toyota has sent me this Crown Nightshade to keep for an entire week so that I can give you guys the most thorough review possible. Toyota sent me a Crown last year. That one was the fully loaded Crown Platinum with the Hybrid Max powertrain. This one doesn't have that same powertrain setup. The Nightshade is like one trim below that one, so I will be making a lot of comparisons between the two trim levels in this video. First, I want to talk about the ride quality, and if you're unfamiliar with the Toyota Crown, I think it's something that would really surprise you. This car overall just feels very premium, but especially in the way it rides. Toyota has done an amazing job with the suspension. It's very composed, it feels very floaty and very Lexus-like. That's the thing that's the most surprising about this. The Crown Nightshade has swing valve shock absorbers, but the Platinum trim level has the adaptive variable suspension. But I will say, even without the adaptive variable component, it's still an extremely smooth ride. And I have driven both, and to be 100% honest, I don't really feel much of a difference between the two. The other thing that makes this really feel like a Lexus is how quiet it is inside the cabin. It's obvious that they've used a lot of good sound deadening materials. On a quiet road like this without traffic, you can't hear anything coming in from the outside, and even when you go out on the highway, noise is very minimal. And a reason that I think the super smooth suspension is actually an amazing feat is because we're sitting on 21-inch wheels. When you're sitting on bigger wheels, not only is it normally a harsher ride because you have less sidewall cushioning you, it also usually means that low-profile tires are louder than ones that have a thicker sidewall. But really, none of those appear to apply in this case. Driving this Toyota Crown, it's just a very calming experience. Now, a lot of people have made the statement saying, why would I buy a Toyota Crown for $50,000 when I can get a Lexus ES for that same money? And what you have to keep in mind is that that's not an apples to apples comparison because it's two different size classifications. This is considered a full-size sedan, where the Lexus ES is a mid-size sedan. So if you were comparing apples to apples, you'd be comparing this Toyota Crown to the Lexus LS. And this one, as it sits nearly fully loaded, right at $50,000. The Lexus LS starts in the 80s. Huge difference in price. Now, obviously, the Lexus LS is a much nicer vehicle than the Toyota Crown. I'm not trying to say it isn't. But a top trim Toyota Crown compared to a base level LS, you're talking nearly a $30,000 price difference. Sure, you can go the ES route instead, but it's a smaller vehicle. Alright, next let's talk about the powertrain numbers. This is a 2.5 liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine paired with 3 different electric motors. Puts out 236 horsepower and 163 pound-feet of torque, and that's paired with an eCVT. And I do have to say, there is quite a contrast between this powertrain and the Hybrid Max powertrain found on the Toyota Crown Platinum. That one has a turbo 4-cylinder hybrid setup, and it has 340 horsepower and 400 pound-feet of torque. Especially the torque, comparing the 163 in this car to the 400 in the Platinum, it is such a drastic difference. And that Crown Platinum has a lot of low-end torque, so acceleration off the line on that car is shockingly fast, but I can't say the same for this one. So we're going to do an acceleration test here and talk about it. Be putting my drive mode selector here into Sport. There's 4 different drive modes: Custom, Sport, Normal, and Eco. Also, this has an eCVT, whereas the Crown Platinum has a 6-speed automatic, and that one gives you paddle shifters too. 0 to 60 is rated at right around 7 seconds. Alright, we're going to come to a complete stop, and we are going a bit uphill, so that's something to keep in mind. Alright. 60. So that took quite a bit to get up to 60. You can only go so fast with a CVT, and also you do get that typical droney CVT noise when you're accelerating. You know, there's no gear shifts. Acceleration is just very average. It's not like it's dangerously slow, but I wouldn't call it quick either. But one thing I will say is that the hybrid system is extremely smooth. The transition from battery to engine when you take off. It's extremely smooth, and that's whether you're at a red light just going up to 25 miles an hour, or if you're doing a straight up 0 to 60. The switch off is very seamless. Toyota always makes a very smooth hybrid system, and this one is no different. Despite this not being the quickest off the line, it's no slouch on the highway. There's no problem trying to keep up with everyone else, or if an opening comes up to switch lanes and pass someone. And the thing that's crazy is that the noisiest component of the ride on the highway is the engine. You can't really hear the cars going around. There's very minimal wind noise coming through, but that CVT sound and, you know, just the engine revving. You know, since it's not an automatic transmission, you don't hear any shifting, so that sound is your acceleration. The pitch just keeps getting higher and higher and higher, but that's that's typical CVT. And this does have an EV only mode, but at this speed you can't use it. So when you press it, it gives you EV mode unavailable, speed range exceeded. So unfortunately you can't go full EV on the highway. That's really only in city driving. Once you're already up to speed and you put your foot down, there's only just a little slight delay in power delivery. It's adequate, but there's nothing about it that's gonna excite you. But with that lack of excitement, you do get phenomenal fuel economy, 42 city and 41 highway in a full-size sedan. If you're looking for a ride that's exciting, I would definitely consider upgrading to that Toyota Crown Platinum trim level. Like I said before, that car is actually like shockingly quick, and I would even say that car is fun to drive. But doing so, there is a trade-off with fuel economy. It's only 29 city and 32 highway. So if you prioritize fuel economy and don't care that much about like the drive itself, Toyota Crown Nightshade or any of the other lower trim levels, more than adequate. But if you don't care as much about the fuel economy, I do think it's worth the upgrade to the Platinum. Alright, so while we're out here, we're going to test out the adaptive cruise control. First step, make sure your lane keep assist is on, so we see it there on the gauge cluster. Next, we set our following distance and speed. So we are going to up that speed a little bit. Let's see, I have it set at, what's that, 56? We're only going about 44 right now. Set the distance a little bit less. Okay, now we're speeding up. Okay, I had the distance set a little bit too far back. Okay, we're getting up to speed. And it looks like fairly quickly it gives the message in the middle saying, you know, keep your hands on the wheel, otherwise lane tracing assist will become unavailable. But so far, it's doing a good job at keeping me centered in the lane, but it is pretty frequently giving that nudge to, you know, put your hand on the wheel. It still wants input from you on the wheel to know that you're still paying attention, because technically it's not supposed to be a fully self-driving system. Okay, we're going, let's see, 53. We're not getting too close to the car in front of us, so far so good. I just wish the steering wheel warning wasn't so annoying. Okay, we're on a turn. Good job keeping it centered in the lane, not doing any drifting back and forth. Now, there is one turn up here that I find some vehicles take a little bit too quickly on the adaptive cruise control. So we're going to test that out now. So let's see how it takes this turn here. See, out of the lane. I find that happens with most of the cars I drive. There was only one or two maybe that did good with that. I think most automakers need to improve their radar systems to detect turns that are coming up and then slow down accordingly, and not just rely on the car in front of you to determine what the speed is and how the vehicle slows down and accelerates, because having the vehicle drift out of the lane is not a good thing. This Toyota Crown Nightshade has an 11-speaker JBL audio system, so let's take a listen and then talk about it. You know, the thing that's really weird with the audio system is that the one in this Nightshade is the same JBL system that's in the Platinum. I had the Platinum last year, and I thought it actually sounded good, whereas a lot of other reviewers were saying, oh, it doesn't sound good, it's got this, it's got that. Weirdly enough, this time around, yeah, this is not the way I remembered it sounding. I feel like this is what the other reviewers were talking about. But yeah, let me talk about the issues I have with this audio system. For one, the bass. Way too overbearing. Normally when I do audio tests, I have all the levels equal, like at 0. But this time I have the bass on either -2 or -3, because you couldn't listen to any kind of bassy music at any more than like medium volume, because the bass was just way too heavy, becoming distorted and like rattling the entire interior. So I have it turned down a few notches to where I think it sounds like it should be. But even with it set how I want it to, just the overall sound, it still lacks richness. The clarity just isn't there. It sounds a little muddy. And as far as this being like an upgraded system, I think it's a little disappointing. So now we're out here at the back roads to test out the steering and handling of the Toyota Crown Nightshade. In the customizable settings, you can tune the steering to either be in normal or sport mode. I have it in sport mode because it makes it tighter. I like when steering has more weight to it. You just feel more in control. Now this is a fairly large sedan, so handling isn't exactly the sportiest, but it is certainly adequate, and the steering in sport mode is nice and tight. It's precise, it's direct. This isn't necessarily the kind of car you want to throw into corners, but tiny bit of body roll, I will say, because this is a slightly taller sedan. It's not a typical low-riding sedan. So my overall consensus, it's a well-rounded commuter car, and it gets very impressive fuel economy for its size. But in terms of the powertrain, I personally believe it's worth the extra money to upgrade to the Hybrid Max powertrain. But if the fuel economy is really enticing to you, and you don't really care how fast the car is, this one will suit you just fine. So that is going to wrap up this test drive of the 2025 Toyota Crown Nightshade. Big thank you to Toyota for sending me this Crown to keep for an entire week so that I could give the most thorough review possible. Let me know your thoughts on the Toyota Crown down in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please share with a friend and subscribe. It'll really help the channel grow. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss any new videos. Let me know down in the comments what other vehicles you want to see on the channel next. And be sure to follow @Optical Automotive on TikTok and Instagram, and check out the page on Facebook. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys later.